Crime and Love, Lessons in Betrayal and Heartbreak. The Unseen Betrayal. The city of Ravenbrook had always thrived on secrets. Nestled between fog-covered hills and encased in darkness, it was a place where shadows seemed to whisper and every corner held a story. It was here that Emma Lawson, a promising young lawyer, had moved to start fresh, leaving behind a troubled past in a city where trust had become a distant memory. Emma's new life seemed perfect. She had just landed a job at the prestigious firm of Whitfield and Associates, where her talents were recognized and her efforts rewarded. The firm's senior partner, Richard Whitfield, had taken a special interest in her, mentoring her with an intensity that made Emma feel both valued and uneasy. One evening, after a long day at work, Emma decided to celebrate with a quiet dinner at a local bistro. It was there that she met Julian Carter, a charming artist with eyes that seemed to see through her carefully constructed facade. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, and before she knew it, Emma found herself laughing and sharing stories she had never intended to reveal. As the night grew late, Julian offered to walk her home. The streets were deserted, and the fog began to creep in, enveloping them in a chilling embrace. Julian's gaze lingered on her with a mixture of admiration and something darker, but Emma was too enraptured by the newness of her emotions to notice. At her doorstep, Julian leaned in for a kiss, and Emma hesitated. Something about the moment felt off, but the warmth of his touch and the thrill of the evening pushed her reservations aside. It was a decision she would come to regret deeply. A dangerous connection. Days turned into weeks, and Emma's relationship with Julian deepened. Their stolen moments together were filled with passion and intensity, but beneath the surface, something felt wrong. Emma's work at Whitfield and Associates also began to take a toll. She had been entrusted with a high-profile case involving a corporate fraud investigation, and the pressure was mounting. One night, Julian invited Emma to his studio, claiming he had a surprise for her. The studio was an eclectic space filled with unfinished canvases and scattered paint tubes. Julian led her to a dark corner, where a new painting was covered by a sheet. With a dramatic flourish, he unveiled the artwork. It was a striking portrait of Emma, but with a disturbing twist her face was painted with a mix of fear and sorrow, eyes reflecting a sense of impending doom. Emma's heart raced as she struggled to make sense of the unsettling image. Julian, sensing her unease, attempted to reassure her. "It's just art," he said, but the weight of his words lingered. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Julian's fascination with her than he let on. As the days went by, her anxiety grew, and she began to notice subtle changes in Julian's behavior: furtive glances, cryptic remarks, and an increased sense of urgency. The hidden agenda. Emma's life seemed to spiral out of control. The corporate fraud case she was working on became more complicated, and her suspicions about Julian deepened. One evening, as she sifted through confidential documents in her apartment, she received a call from Richard Whitfield, asking her to meet him urgently at the office. When she arrived, Richard seemed unusually tense. He revealed that he had received anonymous threats concerning the case and believed someone within the firm might be involved in the fraud. Emma's heart sank as she realized the gravity of the situation. She was now entangled in a web of deception that seemed to have no escape. The next day, Julian's behavior became increasingly erratic. He began to avoid Emma's questions about his past and their future together. The more Emma tried to understand, the more Julian's responses grew defensive. Her desperation to find answers led her to follow him one evening, only to discover him meeting with someone in a dark alley, a shadowy figure who exchanged a briefcase with him. Emma's mind raced as she connected the dots. Could Julian be involved in the fraud case? Was he using their relationship as a cover for his own deceit? The realization hit her like a cold wave, and she was left grappling with the terrifying possibility that the man she had grown to love might be her worst enemy. Unraveling truths. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma decided to confront Julian. She arranged to meet him at his studio, where she demanded answers. Julian, looking pale and disheveled, admitted that he had been keeping secrets, but he insisted that they were not what Emma thought. As Julian hesitated, the doorbell rang. Emma's heart skipped a beat as Julian went to answer it. To her horror, two men in dark suits entered the studio. They introduced themselves as federal agents, and their stern expressions made it clear that they were not there for a casual visit. The agents informed Emma and Julian that they were investigating a high-profile case of corporate espionage and that Julian was a person of interest due to his recent suspicious activities. Emma's world seemed to collapse as she realized the extent of the danger they were in. Julian tried to explain, but his words were incoherent. The agents took him away for questioning, leaving Emma alone with a sense of betrayal and heartbreak. She was now faced with the chilling reality that the man she had trusted might be involved in a criminal conspiracy that could destroy her career and her life. The heart of darkness. Emma's life unraveled further as she struggled to deal with the fallout from Julian's arrest. The media frenzy surrounding the case painted her as an unwitting accomplice, and her reputation at Whitfield and Associates was tarnished. She was ostracized by colleagues and faced intense scrutiny from the public. Desperate to clear her name, Emma decided to conduct her own investigation. She discovered hidden files and documents that hinted at a larger conspiracy involving powerful figures within the firm. The more she uncovered, the more dangerous the situation became. Someone was clearly trying to cover their tracks, and Emma found herself caught in a perilous game of cat and mouse. One night, as she was going through the files in her apartment, she heard a knock on the door. When she opened it, she found a cryptic note slipped under the door. It read, "The truth will set you free, but it will come at a cost." Emma's heart raced as she realized the note was a warning. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined, and her quest for the truth could cost her everything. With each revelation, she came closer to understanding the full extent of the betrayal that had ensnared her. But as the darkness closed in, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The final reckoning. As Emma pieced together the final pieces of the puzzle, she confronted Richard Whitfield with her findings. Richard, whose facade of benevolence had begun to crack, revealed his true nature. He was the mastermind behind the corporate fraud, using Julian as a pawn in his grand scheme. Richard's confession was chilling. He had manipulated Emma and Julian, exploiting their vulnerabilities to further his own agenda. Emma felt a mix of relief and horror as she realized the extent of the deception. But Richard's smugness turned to fury when Emma threatened to expose him. In a dramatic confrontation, Richard revealed his plan to frame Emma for the crimes, ensuring that she would take the fall. The stakes had never been higher, and Emma knew she had to act fast. With the help of Julian, who had managed to escape custody, she devised a plan to gather evidence and bring Richard to justice. In a tense showdown, Emma and Julian confronted Richard in his office, where they managed to secure the evidence needed to prove his guilt. The authorities arrived just in time to arrest Richard, and Emma's name was cleared. But the victory came at a great cost. Emma and Julian's relationship, once filled with promise, was now strained by the weight of their shared experiences. The trust that had bound them together was shattered, and they both faced the painful reality of their choices. As Emma walked away from Ravenbrook, she carried with her the lessons of betrayal and heartbreak. The city that had once seemed so full of promise had left her with scars that would never fully heal. But she had emerged stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever the future held. The shadows of Ravenbrook would always linger, a reminder of the darkness that could lurk behind the most unexpected faces. Emma knew that she would never forget the lessons learned from her journey through crime and love, and she hoped that one day she might find peace amidst the echoes of her past. Reflections and rebirth. As Emma left Ravenbrook behind, the city's oppressive fog seemed to cling to her thoughts, a constant reminder of her turbulent past. She had moved to a quieter town, hoping to rebuild her life away from the shadows that haunted her. The tranquility of her new surroundings was a stark contrast to the chaos she had left behind, but peace came with its own set of challenges. Emma began working at a small legal clinic, focused on helping those in need rather than the high-profile cases she had handled before. The work was fulfilling in a different way, and she found solace in knowing that she was making a positive impact on people's lives. Yet, the scars of her past remained, lingering in the recesses of her mind. One day, while organizing old files, Emma came across a photograph of her and Julian taken during happier times. The image was a reminder of the love and betrayal intertwined in their story. It brought a mix of nostalgia and pain, and she decided it was time to confront her feelings head-on. She reached out to Julian, who was now living in a different city, trying to rebuild his own life after the ordeal. Their conversation was tentative, filled with pauses and unspoken words. Julian admitted his own struggle to move past the events and expressed his regret for the role he had played in their shared nightmare. The conversation was cathartic, allowing both Emma and Julian to acknowledge the damage that had been done and the lessons they had learned. They spoke of forgiveness not just for each other, but for themselves. The journey to forgive and heal was ongoing, but this exchange was a step towards finding closure. The new challenge. Just as Emma was beginning to feel a sense of normalcy, a new challenge emerged. The legal clinic she worked for was faced with a case involving corruption within a local charity organization. Emma was asked to lead the investigation, a task that stirred both excitement and apprehension within her. The case was complex, involving influential figures who were adept at covering their tracks. Emma's instincts, honed from her previous experiences, told her that the corruption ran deeper than initially suspected. She was determined to uncover the truth, but the shadows of her past seemed to follow her every step. As Emma delved into the investigation, she discovered connections between the charity and some of the individuals she had encountered in Ravenbrook. The realization was unsettling. Was her past coming back to haunt her, or was this a new chapter in her quest for justice? Her investigation led her to a network of deceit that extended beyond her initial expectations. The more she uncovered, the more dangerous the situation became. Emma received anonymous threats warning her to stop digging, but she was resolute. The fight for justice was personal now, and she couldn't back down. The web of lies. The investigation took a dark turn when Emma uncovered evidence linking the charity's corruption to a series of high-profile criminal activities. The connections were intricate, involving a web of lies that spanned multiple sectors of society. The deeper Emma went, the more perilous her situation became. She discovered that the charity's founder, a respected community leader, was at the center of the corruption. This revelation was shocking, as the founder was a figure Emma had admired and trusted. The betrayal felt like a cruel twist of fate, reinforcing her belief that trust could be a dangerous thing. Emma's efforts to expose the truth were met with resistance. The more she revealed, the more hostile the environment became. Her personal safety was threatened, and she was forced to navigate a treacherous path of deception and danger. The shadows of Ravenbrook seemed to follow her, a reminder that the darkness was never far behind. Despite the threats and obstacles, Emma pressed on, driven by a sense of duty and a desire to bring those responsible to justice. Her determination was unwavering, and she knew that uncovering the truth was the only way to confront the corruption that had tainted her life and the lives of others. Redemption and resolution. The climax of Emma's investigation came when she gathered enough evidence to confront the charity's founder. The confrontation was intense, filled with accusations and revelations that exposed the full extent of the corruption. The founder's arrogance and denial only fueled Emma's resolve. With the evidence in hand, Emma presented her findings to the authorities, who launched a full-scale investigation into the charity's operations. The fallout was significant, with multiple arrests and a public outcry that demanded accountability. Emma's bravery and persistence were recognized, and she was hailed as a hero for her role in uncovering the corruption. The victory was bittersweet, as the scars of her past and the cost of her journey were ever present. But Emma found solace in knowing that she had made a difference, and her actions had brought about meaningful change. As the dust settled, Emma began to rebuild her life once again. She continued her work at the legal clinic, focusing on cases that aligned with her values and allowed her to make a positive impact. The lessons she had learned from her experiences remained with her, guiding her as she navigated the complexities of life and relationships. The shadows of her past might never fully disappear, but Emma had found a sense of peace and redemption. Her journey through crime and love had taught her the harsh realities of betrayal and heartbreak, but it had also shown her the strength of the human spirit and the power of resilience. Emma knew that her story was far from over, but she faced the future with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. The lessons learned from her tumultuous journey had shaped her into a person who was stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. And as she looked forward, she held on to the belief that, despite the darkness, there was always a path to the light. The echoes of betrayal. With the charity scandal behind her, Emma tried to embrace her new life with hope and optimism. Yet, despite her success in exposing the corruption, the echoes of her past continued to reverberate through her life. She found it challenging to fully trust others, and the fear of betrayal lingered in her relationships and interactions. One evening, while attending a charity gala in her new town, Emma was approached by a familiar face from her past, Richard Whitfield. His presence was unexpected and unsettling. He had managed to secure an invitation to the event under the guise of philanthropy, but Emma knew better than to take him at face value. Richard, now out on bail and facing numerous legal battles, attempted to charm Emma with a disarming smile and feigned remorse. He expressed regret for his past actions and claimed to have found a new purpose in life. Emma was skeptical, knowing that his charisma had once masked his true intentions. The encounter left Emma feeling uneasy. She couldn't shake the feeling that Richard's appearance was not merely coincidental but part of a larger scheme. His words were carefully chosen, and his demeanor seemed calculated. Emma decided to keep a close eye on him, sensing that his presence might signal a resurgence of trouble. The new threat. Emma's instincts proved correct when she received an anonymous message containing a cryptic warning: "The past is never truly buried. Beware the shadows that linger." The message was accompanied by a photograph of her from the gala, taken without her knowledge. The threat made Emma uneasy. She had hoped to leave her past behind, but it seemed that someone was determined to drag her back into the darkness. Her paranoia grew as she wondered if Richard or someone else from her past was orchestrating a new plan against her. Emma decided to investigate the source of the message. Her research led her to a series of unsettling revelations about Richard's associates and their ongoing activities. It became clear that Richard had not truly abandoned his corrupt ways. Instead, he had found new allies and was working to regain his former influence. The more Emma uncovered, the more dangerous the situation became. Richard's new connections were involved in illicit activities that threatened to destabilize her new community. Emma's sense of urgency grew, and she knew she had to act quickly to protect herself and others from the looming threat. The unraveling conspiracy. As Emma delved deeper into the conspiracy, she discovered that Richard had been orchestrating a complex scheme involving money laundering and illegal investments. His goal was to rebuild his empire using the wealth acquired through deceit, and he was willing to go to great lengths to achieve it. The investigation led Emma to a hidden network of operatives who were facilitating Richard's plans. She uncovered a series of coded messages and financial records that revealed the full extent of the conspiracy. The stakes were high, and Emma knew that exposing the truth would require more than just legal expertise. It would demand courage and resilience. In her efforts to gather evidence, Emma encountered numerous obstacles. Richard's associates were skilled at covering their tracks, and Emma faced threats and intimidation as she pursued her investigation. The sense of danger was palpable, and Emma found herself in a constant state of alert. Despite the risks, Emma pressed on. She collaborated with local law enforcement and trusted allies to build a case against Richard and his network. The process was grueling, and the tension mounted as Emma worked to piece together the final elements of the conspiracy. The showdown. The climax of Emma's investigation came when she orchestrated a high-stakes confrontation with Richard and his associates. She had gathered enough evidence to expose their criminal activities, but the final showdown would be fraught with danger. Emma, accompanied by a team of trusted allies and law enforcement, set up a sting operation to catch Richard and his network in the act. The plan was risky, and the outcome was uncertain, but Emma was determined to see justice served. The operation unfolded with a mix of tension and adrenaline. As Emma and her team moved in on Richard's hideout, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The sting operation was meticulously planned, But the unexpected twists and turns of the confrontation kept everyone on edge. Richard's reaction was one of fury and desperation. He attempted to escape, but the coordinated efforts of Emma and the law enforcement officers prevented him from evading capture. The operation was a success, and Richard and his associates were taken into custody. The aftermath. With Richard and his network dismantled, Emma faced the aftermath of her relentless pursuit of justice. The legal battles were intense, but the victory was significant. The corruption that had plagued her life and her community was exposed, and the perpetrators were held accountable for their actions. Emma's role in the investigation earned her recognition and respect. Her bravery and determination were celebrated, and she was hailed as a hero for her efforts in uncovering the conspiracy. Yet, despite the accolades, Emma remained humble and focused on the future. The experience had left its mark on Emma, and she knew that healing and moving forward would take time. She continued her work at the legal clinic, finding solace in helping others and making a positive impact in her community. Emma also took the time to reconnect with her personal life. She rebuilt her relationships, focusing on trust and authenticity. The lessons she had learned from her journey through crime and love had shaped her into a person who was stronger and more resilient. Embracing the future. As Emma looked towards the future, she embraced a new sense of hope and possibility. Her experiences had taught her the harsh realities of betrayal and heartbreak, but they had also shown her the strength of the human spirit and the power of redemption. Emma's journey had been marked by challenges and setbacks, but she had emerged with a renewed sense of purpose and resilience. She knew that the road ahead would have its own obstacles, but she was ready to face them with the wisdom and courage she had gained. The shadows of her past might continue to linger, but Emma had learned to navigate them with grace and determination. She had found a sense of peace and fulfillment in her work and her relationships, and she was ready to embrace whatever the future held. With each step forward, Emma carried with her the lessons of her journey, a reminder of the darkness she had faced and the strength she had discovered within herself. As she moved forward, she remained hopeful that the echoes of betrayal and heartbreak would eventually fade, replaced by a brighter, more hopeful future. And so, Emma's story continued, marked by resilience and hope as she embraced the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. The unexpected reunion. Emma's life seemed to be on a steady course, but fate had a way of intervening when least expected. One afternoon, while walking through the town's park, Emma was approached by an old friend from her days in Ravenbrook, Sophia, her former colleague. The chance meeting was unexpected, and Emma was both surprised and pleased to see a familiar face from her past. Sophia had heard about Emma's recent successes and wanted to catch up. They met at a nearby cafe, where the conversation flowed easily despite the years that had passed. Sophia's presence brought a sense of nostalgia, but also a reminder of the turbulent times Emma had endured. During their conversation, Sophia revealed that she had been working on a book about the corruption and scandals that had plagued Ravenbrook. Her research had led her to uncover new, disturbing details about the network of deceit that Emma had once fought against. The new revelations were shocking and hinted at a broader, more complex conspiracy that had remained hidden until now. Emma listened intently, realizing that the shadows of her past were still reaching into her present. The knowledge that there were unresolved elements in the case made her uneasy, but also reinvigorated her sense of justice. She decided to collaborate with Sophia to uncover the truth and ensure that the full extent of the corruption was exposed. The new investigation. Emma and Sophia's partnership marked the beginning of a new investigation. They delved into the new evidence with renewed vigor, exploring connections that had previously eluded them. Their research led them to uncover hidden financial records, secret meetings, and a network of individuals who had been operating behind the scenes. The investigation was challenging, with many obstacles along the way. Emma and Sophia faced resistance from powerful figures who were determined to keep their secrets buried. They received anonymous threats and encountered attempts to sabotage their efforts, but their determination remained unshaken. As they pieced together the new information, Emma and Sophia discovered that the corruption extended beyond Ravenbrook and involved influential figures on a national scale. The scope of their investigation revealed a web of deceit that reached into various sectors of society, and the stakes were higher than ever before. Emma found herself reliving the intensity of her previous investigation, but this time with a partner who understood the complexities of the case. Sophia's expertise and insight proved invaluable, and their collaboration strengthened their resolve to bring the truth to light. The rising tension. The new investigation brought Emma and Sophia into increasingly dangerous territory. Their efforts to expose the corruption attracted the attention of those who had much to lose if their secrets were revealed. The threats and intimidation they faced escalated, creating an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. Emma received a series of ominous messages warning her to cease her investigation. The messages were cryptic and unsettling, suggesting that their efforts were putting their lives at risk. The fear of potential danger made Emma and Sophia cautious, but it also fueled their determination to see the investigation through to the end. The rising tension affected their personal lives as well. Emma struggled with the emotional toll of the investigation, finding it challenging to maintain a sense of normalcy. Her relationships were strained, and she felt the weight of the case pressing down on her. Despite the difficulties, she remained focused on the mission and the need to uncover the truth. The truth revealed. After months of relentless investigation, Emma and Sophia reached a breaking point. They had gathered enough evidence to expose the full extent of the corruption. The final piece of the puzzle came together, revealing a shocking network of deceit that implicated several high-profile figures. The revelations were explosive, and the impact was immediate. Emma and Sophia presented their findings to the authorities and the media, sparking a wave of public outrage and demand for accountability. The exposure of the corruption led to multiple arrests and legal proceedings, and the fallout was significant. The truth was finally out, and the people involved in the conspiracy faced justice. The case had a profound effect on the community, highlighting the need for transparency and integrity in positions of power. Emma and Sophia's bravery and perseverance were recognized, and they were praised for their role in bringing the truth to light. A new beginning. With the case concluded and the corruption exposed, Emma and Sophia took a moment to reflect on their journey. The investigation had been arduous and fraught with danger, but it had also been a testament to their strength and dedication. Emma's life began to stabilize once more. She continued her work at the legal clinic, using her experience to advocate for justice and support those in need. The lessons she had learned from her tumultuous journey had shaped her into a more resilient and compassionate person. Sophia's book was published, detailing the investigation and the corruption they had uncovered. It became a bestseller, shedding light on the darker aspects of society and contributing to the ongoing conversation about integrity and accountability. Emma and Sophia's friendship deepened through their shared experience, and they remained in touch, supporting each other as they moved forward. The bond they had formed during the investigation was a source of strength and camaraderie. As Emma looked towards the future, she felt a renewed sense of hope and purpose. The shadows of her past had been confronted, and she had emerged stronger and wiser. The journey through crime and love had taught her valuable lessons about betrayal, heartbreak, and redemption. Emma embraced the new chapter of her life with optimism and determination. She knew that challenges would continue to arise, but she was ready to face them with the courage and resilience she had gained. The future was uncertain, but Emma was confident that she had the strength to navigate whatever came her way. And so, Emma's story continued, marked by the lessons of her past and the promise of a brighter future. With each step forward, she carried with her the knowledge that, despite the darkness she had faced, there was always a path to the light.